Hey guys, how are you doing? Mariana Fush here with the first video of this channel, and in this channel we're actually going to be showing you how to edit. Well, I'm going to be showing how to edit like the best of the best. Today is about editing like Watch Luke. Now Watch Luke is one of my favorite photographers and videographers in the whole wide world. He is just amazing in his creations, and we're going to be learning how to edit just like him. So if you do want to see that, stay tuned. So as you guys can see right here, I'm on his Instagram page and he just has amazing photos right here. He has amazing photos, I think he has some reels, yeah, obviously because it's the new trend of Instagram. The photo I chose here of all of these amazing photos was actually this Mount Fuji one. So this Mount Fuji photo has an horizontal version and also has a vertical version, which is the one we're going to be using as a reference for today. Now I went in and I actually downloaded Watch Luke's photo from Mount Fuji, and here it is as a reference in Adobe Lightroom CC. So my workflow usually consists of going through Adobe Lightroom CC and then getting the fine adjustments and the final tunes done in Adobe Photoshop. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. The first thing that I actually want to do here is I actually want to mess a little with the blurs, but not too much, probably just a -2, just to see how it looks and how it behaves according to the adjustments that I'm going to be doing next. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get a little bit of contrast, because as you guys can see, Watch Luke actually puts a lot of contrast in grain, which is going to be next, on his photos, which is something I totally love, and I also do. So it's very, easily recognizable for me. So the thing is, he actually messes with the curves or he does the contrast. Either way, we're going to get to this result, the most lookalike to this result as we can today. So the next thing I want to do is actually go and take a little bit of the reals from the sky, the highlights actually, so we can get a bit of revealing, the details of the sky and Mount Fuji. But here, as you guys can see, the whites are totally blown out, so we have to, take the whites and then we can actually see the top of the mountain of Mount Fuji a little bit better. But I would take it just a little more just to see how it looks. As you guys can see, we do have a lot of detail and we want that. Now probably this photo was taken with a not so top and high end camera, and now we have to reveal as many details as we can without getting too much grain in it, at least natural grain, because we're going to add a grain later, but you guys can tell what I mean. So let's do that. I'm going to open up a little bit the shadows just so I can see a little bit of detail in the shadows. I'm going to open up a bit the blacks, and it's looking a lot better to me. So before after, we do have a lot of detail right now, which we can work on and manipulate as much as we want. So what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to get a little bit of clarity, take a little bit of the texture and just put a little dehaze, but probably not that much, just about a 14, just to make sure we can get, a bit of light detail. And don't worry, because this part right here will disappear in Photoshop or here. I'll see how I do it, but follow along. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to go to the tone curve, and I don't know if you guys know, but the tone curve is absolutely my favorite part of Lightroom and all of the photo editing softwares, because with the tone curve you can actually do so much. So what I usually do is I'm going to just do a little bit of a curve here to get those shadows a little bit darker, give it natural contrast with the tone curve. And the next thing I actually want to do is actually get the photo a little bit more light with the mid-tones, and then get a little bit of those highlights there, not too much, just to make sure, get a little bit of detail from Mount Fuji and from the sky, which has beautiful clouds. In this case it doesn't, but remember, we want to stay as close to this photo but with the actual resources that we have, obviously. Just so you know, this photo was actually taken off of unsplash.com, as you guys can see right here, or you probably noticed before, but Unsplash is a great source, for all types of imagery, and basically it looks amazing. All of their photos, you can get to know other creatives, so it's top notch. The next thing I want to do within the tone curve still is go to blur, get a little bit of that blur in the sky, but not too much. Then see what I can do with the shadows and midtones. Just give it a little bit of yellow in the midtones, kind of warmer tone. And then go a little bit here within the shadows and just see what we can do here. I give it a little bit of a warmer tone because I feel like this photo has the majority of it is cool, is blue. But then you actually have a lot of warmth in there, which is what gives it that color pop and that pop to the actual image. So next thing I want to do is I want to go to the red tone curve. And I know this is a lot of tone curve to do, but if you just follow along, then it will be easier to understand what I'm trying to do. Let's just go to the tone curve, give it a bit of, that warmth here in the Mount Fuji. It's very slight, but if you have a trained eye, you can actually see it. So then we're going to go to the mid-tones, we're going to do that. And then here, I'm just going to give it a little bit of blue, because it'll be easier right here on the HSL panel, which is what I want you to pay the most attention now, because it's what's going to make this photo look like this photo a bit more. So what I want to do is I want to go to hue, and I'll get that right there. I want to go to saturation, put it desaturate just a bit, and then within the luminance, as you guys can see, this just has a lot of adjustments, and the whole of the image is a foundation, but then the adjustments make it what it is. So we're gonna do that in Photoshop in just a bit. Luminance is basically just gonna go down, and then here the aquas and the blues down. Now what I'm gonna try to do here, because I see that it has a lot of no actual vignette from the camera, is I'm gonna remove the chromatic aberration, and I'm gonna go to corrections of profile, and then I'm gonna go to Apple. I'm assuming this was actually taken with Canon camera, but it's just, for purposes of this video to actually try to take this vignette off. On the effects panel, what you want to do is you actually want to put the vignette but contrary, giving it a bit of white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with 6, and then as you can see, the vignettes kind of went away. But stay tuned because we're going to be taking all of that in Photoshop. So the next thing I want to do is actually want to go to color calibration, and we're going to go to primary hue. Then we're going to go to, on the primary blues, we're going to get a little bit to the left, so -19. And then we're going to go to saturation and take it a bit from there. And then not too much here, probably just -8. And then from there, which we were going to be doing, is we're going to go back to saturation. And we're going to put a little bit of saturation on that blur. Just take a little bit of the aquas, put a little of the blues, and it's looking more and more like it every day. So the next thing we actually wanted to do is you want to go to the contrast panel, and you actually just want to take, put a little bit more contrast and take a little bit of that light in there, which is going to augment the vignette, which we're going to contrarize right now. Again here, 8, looking a lot better. Now we're going to be taking this image right now off the Photoshop, so it's just going to be a unique part of it because we're going to dodge and burn and do a lot of stuff that I think you guys would like to see doing. So let's get into it. I'm going to import this image to Photoshop, and I'll be right back. Now we have it in Photoshop. So the first thing I usually do is I hit Command J just to make sure it's a duplicated version, and we actually have, the original version below that is right here. It's untouched, and we can actually, get back to it if we ever need it. It's just a little tip for you guys that are starting to use Photoshop. Always do that because it will literally save all of your work if you do any mistake. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go here, and I want to go to levels, kind of see what I can do with the levels, give it depth, give it contrast, and just to make sure how it looks. So we're just going to go here. So we're going to lower the shadows just about 6. We'll see if we put in between 6 and 4 how it will work. Then we're going to go here. We're going to do that just to make sure I give it a little bit of light. Then we're going to hit Option or Alt if you're in a Windows computer, and just do that to make sure we get a little bit more light without blowing out the highlights. So I think that's looking really good. The next thing we actually want to do is actually want to go here to the adjustments again, and we want to do a little bit of a trick that I really like, which is going to color match or something like that. Just balancing the colors, color balance. And then the actual thing we want to do is we want to get a bit of red in there. So you actually want to go and put a little bit of color of the opposite color that you have in your photo. That'll give it pop. Usually gives the photo, a bit of context, a bit of interest. And people actually like that. So let's see how it looks. Like I was saying, I just put a little bit of red, put a little bit of the, not too much, but I put a little bit of the magenta that we have here, and now I'm going to put a little bit of yellow. It's starting to look a lot better. So from this to this, it's actually looking a lot better. This color right here actually gave it a spark of interest, at least I think it did, and it's looking a lot better to me. The next thing I want to do is I actually want to go here again, and I want to go to color search, just where the LUTs are. I'm not really sure how you say it in English, but just where the LUTs are. And usually there's 2 that I use. I either use the film stock or I use the Kodak 5218. But in this photo, I actually think would look better the film stock. Obviously not with its full opacity, but just going through to about a 20% or a 25%, I think would do a little bit of a difference. As you guys can see, just going back to it, 1, 2, 3 adjustments, and it's looking a lot better to me. Now you can go back to this, just have it as a reference. It's still a bit of a darker photo, and there is still a lot of dodge and burn to do, but we're going to do that right now. And then I'm going to give you the preset so that you can apply this to basically any portrait and stuff like that. I'm going to give you the foundation of the preset, which is this foundation that we have right here on Lightroom. Is going to be free in the description below. You can check it out at the end of the video or right now if you wish. And basically we can take that base, take that foundation, and just apply it to portraits and all you want. Just make sure you do a little bit of adjustments. If you're new to this, I actually have to say this, just make sure you do a little bit of adjustments just to make sure that the colors match and that the adjustments match to the subject of your photo and actually what you're wanting to portray and represent with your specific and own photo. Now I think this is looking a lot better. Like I said, I'm going to go through, I'm going to create a new layer. So I'm going to go Command Shift Option E, just to make sure I have a layer now duplicated with everything that I have already done. That is going to allow you, you know, to do dodge and burn or whatever, you know, non-destructive adjustments that you want to do, you know, actually without having to go on and off the program. So that's actually really cool thing that I actually learned about Photoshop a few years ago. So the thing that I want to do now is I want to go here. I want to go to dodge and burn. I'm going to do the second one first, and then I'm just going to diminish that right there to about 100, and I'm just going to be creating some points of interest here on the Mount Fuji. So this is pretty much what almost all photographers do when it comes to actually creating points of interest. We add, you know, darker and lighter areas so that we can actually, you know, make sure we have all of the interest somewhere. In this case is actually Mount Fuji, which is, you know, the protagonist of Watch Luke's photos and of this tutorial. So as you guys can see, if I go back and take the dodge and burn, and if I put the dodge and burn, actually look a lot better now a little bit. You can go about this as much as you want. I'm just gonna speed up this part of the dodging and burning so you can actually see how it looked like, but you don't have to spend hours and hours or minutes and minutes just checking what I'm doing. So I'm gonna speed it up from now on. So guys, obviously for purpose of this video, you did not hear what I was saying right now, but I just give it a fast and quick dodge and burn so you can see the difference. So this was before, this was after, and as you guys can see, it really pops the colors. I really did a little bit here on the roof of the Japanese house and give it a little bit of more detail and just a little bit open up those shadows just to make sure you can actually see everything. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to go to Command Option Shift E again to duplicate this layer that I already did with everything. I'm going to go to a camera raw filter and kind of see what I can do here. So remember that this was the reference and we got to get to as close to this as we actually can. So we're going to go back to camera raw, but this time in Photoshop, and I'm just going to get it a little bit blue. Now we can mess with the contrast, give it a little bit less highlights, not too much though, and then lowering down those lights. Maybe not that much, but just to see how it looks. A bit of shadows, a bit of whites. I can imagine, you know, the amount of work, you know, all of these creators have, like I know I have, for example, just to make the photos perfect, you know, for their audience and for themselves, because you actually have to like what we're doing. So just a quick disclaimer and a little bit of a rant, but just so you can understand what we go through when we're trying to create this. If you're a creator, you have gone through it, you're going through it, or you're going to go through it, so be ready for it. Next thing is just the clarity. Take it like that, then do a little bit of getting that to look better, 3 with the dehaze right there, and then we're just gonna use some masking right there. As you guys can see, we actually have a lot of light in the middle of the image, and then the rest is kind of dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with a radial filter. I'm going to pretty much just invert the mask and pretty much just do that, and let me just fine tune it a little bit more just to see what I can do here. Because we do have Mount Fuji, which is the subject, not this. The Mount Fuji is the subject. So we want to see how we can highlight that. Just making sure everything looks better, you know. We're not doing it too dark like I'm actually doing here. So the next thing we actually want to do is just add a bit of light. So take this minus light that we put in there. And as you guys can see, it's actually looking more and more towards his style as ever. So we're going to do that. We're going to go to color correction, medium tones there, shadow is there. And then we're going to go to the reals right there. And I think it's looking more like his photo every single time. It's important to note that we cannot put the sky darker because we do have the natural vignette. So we do not want that, but I think it's looking actually pretty good. Next thing we actually want to do is want to go to color calibration, a little bit of primary blue, take it and put it just to see how it looks. But I would take a bit of it and just see, you know, how it looks in the end. Then I will take a little bit of saturation of it, just a tad. Put a little bit of grain here on the effects panel. Export it back to Lightroom and we're basically done. So let's go back to Lightroom. So as you guys can see, like I said, I cannot put it as dark, you know, as this photo right here because the sky is blown out and I cannot find a better image on Unsplash to actually portray this effect to this photo, you know, this photo edit that we're doing right here. But as you guys can see, the colors are very similar. I'm actually just going to take a little bit of saturation. and a bit of vibration. And as you guys can see, the colors are very similar. The only thing that's missing, it's actually, you know, the flowers and everything, but it actually looks pretty good. And you know, this is one of my favorite, you know, photographers and videographers, like I said in the beginning of the video, and I just love his work. This is basically as close to it as I can get in a short tutorial like this. But if I were to spend hours doing this, probably I would get a lot closer. But this is just, you know, how it looks when I do it very, very simply, very, very easily, and breaking all the steps down to you guys. So like I said, I will be leaving the foundation preset, which is actually this one right here. Just looks like this, and you have to do a little bit of fine tuning on Photoshop. Will look a bit more like this, but like this one, you just have to go, you know, to my description of this video. You have to go to Google Drive and basically just download the preset for absolutely free. I think this is one of his best photos. Like I said, I love the turns. If you have a photo that you can actually do, for example, final edit, and you can do this and it actually looks good, then definitely do it. But here I wasn't able to do that, like I said, because of the sky. Now, if you did like this video, make sure you like it, you comment your thoughts, and you subscribe for the next video that will be coming out someday this week. Make sure you stay well, stay safe, stay good, stay happy, and I'll see you on the next one.